Hey, Mama. I'm so glad that you're here today. I wanted to share my story with you on how I discovered that my nervous system is what was dysregulated about a year ago in my motherhood journey. So, I high level touch on several points that have kind of unfolded over the past few years in this episode. Again, just kind of in the unwinding process, the discovery process of what my nervous system is, what overstimulation is, and why it is so important in our motherhood journey to have conscious awareness of this. So, I hope you enjoy this episode. It was a little bit vulnerable for me, and I opened up a little bit more than I typically do. So, I hope you enjoy. Do you wake up with the intention of being a present and patient mom, only to find yourself feeling overwhelmed and depleted amidst the chaos of daily life? Hi, I'm Leslie, a mom of littles and the host of the Grounded Mama podcast. Here we will find balance by integrating practices that reduce overstimulation and stress in order to enhance your whole family's well-being. Ready to slow down and be the intentional mother you desire to be? Okay, Mama, it's time to feel grounded. Take a deep breath and let's dive in. Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great week so far. I want to just check in and see how you're feeling, how you're doing. Maybe we can do a little bit of a grounding practice. If you're sitting down, which I'm sure if you're a busy mama of some kiddos, you're not. But if you are by chance, how about you just sit down and ground both feet on the ground and close your eyes and just see which sit bone is weighted on your chair more than the other. How are your shoulders feeling? How's your jaw? Is it tight? Is it relaxed? Are your shoulders up by your ears, or are they relaxed? Are they dropped? Are your feet kind of just gently placed on the ground, or are they cemented in? Are they concreted into the floor? How does that feel? How does a check-in like that feel? Just to maybe sit with yourself for a minute and check in with your body, listen to what your body might be telling you. I need to go for a walk. I need to do a nice good stretch. I need to just lay down. I think sometimes we get caught up in the day, and while taking a minute for ourselves in the middle of the day might seem selfish or inconsiderate, it is so important to just ground down. I am so grateful you're here. Today, I'm actually going to share with you my story and how I got here. I am so honored to be here, and I actually had a couple podcast interviews where I was being interviewed this morning, and it was just a humbling experience to witness my journey over the past few years from kind of like a high level and share it with these women who are amazing women that I've connected with through podcasting, through courses that I've taken. And I'm just so grateful for saying yes to myself in really hard times and really hard seasons of our life. Because if it wasn't for me following that intuition and talking to them about following the breadcrumbs, following the God nods along the way, along the path, like I really wouldn't be here where I'm at today. So I just kind of wanted to revisit my story for you guys because some of you might know me personally. Some of you might have followed the podcast when it was the Kindred Journey podcast. But now that it is the Grounded Mama podcast, if you're interested of why I'm here and where I came from and where I'm going, I'm really excited. So let's dive in. But before I start on my journey, I would love to invite you to my Rebalanced Mama group on Heartbeat. I will include the link in the show notes, and I would love to see you over there. I'd love to get to know you a little bit more. I'd love to know your story, your motherhood journey. And again, it's just a place to connect in community. That's one of the reasons I started the podcast, and I'll touch on that a little bit in this story. but I love connecting with other mothers. I love connecting in community with other women. I think it is such a powerful and important component of what makes me who I am. And again, I just really thoroughly enjoyed some of the podcast interviews that I was on today. So I can't wait to share those with you as well. So come over, join the Heartbeat community, the Rebalanced Mama. I share kind of updates and we connect. And there's actually a really great feature that if you're in the same geolocation as somebody else, you can actually connect with them in person. So it's not just to be a virtual community, but it's also meant to be created as an in-person community as well. It has taken me several seasons of courage to get where I am today. And over that time frame, I didn't know what was happening in my body when I was ultimately when I was in survival mode. And if you've been around long enough, you know that the old podcast, my previous podcast was the Kindred Journey, where I had women come on and share their stories of courage over comfort. And I met some incredible women, and I've had some incredible stories. So if you want to go back and listen to any of those episodes, they are still up. They're just below all of, I think the last one is episode 44. So from 1 to 44 is episodes of the Kindred Journey podcast. And something we talked about collectively as women and women's in moments or seasons of courage is that courage can be either chosen or it can be forced. And I think while I'm not focusing on as much on courage, I think there is so much there with the nervous system and nervous system regulation that involves courage. And for my unique experience, it was mostly forced courage but it can be exhilarating chosen courage, like moving to a new state or taking a new job across the country or selling everything you own and moving onto a sailboat. I had so many amazing stories of women that came on and shared their stories of courage. For us, it was definitely more of a forced season of courage. And it started right after we got married, pretty much. We got married in 2021. And after we got married, including our marriage, that we hit 4 of the 5 major catastrophic life events within an 18-month period. We got married, we moved, we found out we were expecting, we found out my husband was having a major health concern and had to have he had to undergo a major life-changing surgery for him the following year. We had a traumatic C-section with my first, and I actually shared my birth story on one of the Kindred Journey podcast episodes with that. So that was, in a nutshell, it was a whirlwind. It seems like a blur, but it all happened so fast and it came out of left field. Like you think when you get married, it's for better, for worse, in sickness and health, you say those things, but it was truly the latter of those things that we stepped into really fast in our marriage. Like our honeymoon phase was over pretty much when fire season started. My husband's a wildland firefighter, for those of you who don't know, and he's gone in the summers. So the second we got married in May, and then he left for work and he was gone. So and then all of this literally unfolded as the end of fire season and into the fall that year. And you just don't know when you're in it, or I guess you can't step out of it when you're in it. You can't see the forest beyond the trees when you're in a season of survival mode, because we really were. I don't know how many times I spiraled, how many times I was like, when is this going to end? What is this feeling? When our son was born, I had an emergency C-section. So I was recovering. We had a 2-month-old, and we go and live out of state for about a month. And my husband undergoes this surgery. And so I'm caregiving for my husband. I'm caregiving for myself still. And I'm caregiving for this baby that's 2 months old. Fortunately, my mom was able to be there with us during this time because we had to have extra support there, and I'm grateful for that. But it was a lot. And then I also simultaneously started back to my 9 to 5 when we were down there for the surgery. So, because I didn't know any better, I didn't know any different. So postpartum depression hit me really hard with our first, considering all the life circumstances that we were experiencing. No wonder. uh, I You don't know what you don't know. And I think so much of motherhood is such a lived experience. You could be told something until they're, your mom, your grandma, your best friend is blue in the face, but until you actually live that experience, it is not something that you can quite grasp. So with all that being said, we came out of that wilderness season per se, and things somewhat seemed to level out a little bit. We are fortunately blessed to be expecting our second son, and he is coming up on being 1 year old, which is crazy to me that time flies so fast. And again, knowing what you do the best with what you can, and knowing what I knew is that I needed additional support. I knew I experienced postpartum depression with my first. So I knew gearing up for another fire season and with two babies and my maternity leave not going very far into the summer, I knew I was going to need additional support. So I was very proud of myself. I advocated for myself to receive more maternity leave, especially when I knew I had really spiraled into postpartum depression with my first. And I think being aware of what triggers you, what can affect you, and being able to identify those, something I talk about so much in the program that I have is awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. So it all starts with the awareness. I didn't know that I was going to have postpartum depression. I didn't know about all of the circumstances that came at us in such a short amount of time. So I truly did do the best I could with what I had, and I give myself so much grace and so much love and support in the season that I was in. So with that being said, I did advocate for more maternity leave, more time off, and I'm so proud I did because I really needed that time. And if I wouldn't have gotten that time, I can't imagine where I would have been throughout the summer, single parenting, because I was supposed to go back to work the day before my husband left for fire season. So I would have became a single full-time working mom overnight, and I didn't want to do that. I think America's laws are a bunch of BS, in my opinion, about maternity leave in the first place. I think it's ridiculous what is expected of moms to do. And so I'm grateful again that I was able to get that extra time off. But with all that being said, that this last summer was a very transformational and pivotal season in my life because I'm here today. I'm here on the Grounded Mama podcast talking about nervous system regulation. I knew roughly what a nervous system was. I've heard of it. I hadn't deep dived into it at all. So whenever I feel like it's funny, whenever you buy a car or researching a car that you want to buy, and then the second you drive it off the lot, you see it almost everywhere, or that new jacket you wanted, and then you see that your friend has it. And, it's just funny how the awareness piece is so prevalent when you get into something like this. So again, the nervous system was something I had heard of but wasn't really in tune with. And it was this summer when I was single parenting. My husband was gone. He was on the road, and it was middle of July, and I was just wondering what was wrong with me, and in the most loving way possible, not a shameful way, but like, what is wrong with me? Like I've wanted this. I've wanted to be a mom. I'm so lucky. I'm so grateful. I'm blessed with two amazing boys, but what is wrong inside of me? Like I don't get it. And I had seen a functional medicine doctor a few years prior, and I did labs, and I did, stress tests and labs for cortisol, and did all these things. And she's like, you're really healthy. She's like, there are a few things that, could be tweaked, but like you're healthy. But I've kind of been on this search for a few years now. And, I'm glad that it's come to light the way it did. And again, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't without the God nods that I had followed along the way. And so there was one day where I was anxiously awaiting my sister's arrival. I was in the kitchen making dinner, baby in the carrier, and toddler trying to help me make dinner. And I'm sure if any of you have littles that are scientists and explorers like my own, is all they want to do is explore. All they want to do is cause and effect. See what happens. Let's try it and find out. So I had a bag of rice on the counter and I was getting ready to make dinner. And my 2-year-old decided to pull it off of and they're quick. They're really, really quick. He pulled this bag of rice off of the counter and it went everywhere. And it was a Costco size bag. So it was not a small bag. And I remember the sensations and the feelings in my body of just like this uproar from like my feet all the way up my body. It was almost like a tingling, heated effect up into my chest. And I was like, I can't. So we decided to go sit outside and wait for my sisters to pull in the driveway, which I think was another hour. I just had to walk away. And I don't know if my sisters remember this, but I certainly do. And I was standing there. I was standing there with the baby in the carrier. I had my glass of wine in one hand and I had my toddler's hand in the other. And I truly had the look of despair on my face. And I truly feel like I had the look of save me on my face because I needed help. I needed to be saved in a way of like, I felt like I was drowning. I just couldn't get ahead of motherhood and life and the house and all the things to do and all the overwhelm. That's the word that just kept coming to me was I'm so overwhelmed. And I'm so grateful that they showed up, and I'm so grateful that this piece of my story has brought so much clarity. And I didn't want to be the mom. I knew I could be a better mom. I didn't want to be the mom that was waiting for wine o'clock or for happy hour or for bedtime or nap time to get here. Like I wanted to thoroughly enjoy being a present mom with my kids. Like that, this is what I had prayed for. So again, please, if you've ever had any of these feelings or thoughts, like you're not alone and it's okay to feel like I want to validate your feelings because again, there's no guilt or shame associated with what our experience is in motherhood, and give yourself permission to just receive what is in store for you, for your motherhood journey. So I invite you just to honor and truly embody your experience in motherhood. And I'm here for it. I'm here to walk alongside you. You know, I loved my old podcast title was the Kindred Journey. You know, I think motherhood is a kindred journey. It is a like journey of our motherhood experience, but it's not the same. And when we lock arms and make a united front, I think we're just going to be that much better. It truly takes a village to raise these beautiful humans. So again, I'm just so excited and I invite you to join me here. So with this little blip of a story, it was not even the tip of the iceberg. A few days later, we went on a camping trip. And for me, and for those of you who know me maybe personally, you know that I love nature. I've talked about it on the podcast before. That is one of my grounding practices. And again, in my program, we identify what your specific grounding practices are. So for me, one of them is nature. So I was just looking so forward to this camping trip. It was the middle of summer. We were going to a campground on a lake. Actually, we didn't know where we were going because the fires were so bad in the surrounding area that the smoke was so socked in. So it was kind of an adventure in itself. And the first night we actually stayed in a little campground, a tiny home campground. It had little boutique kind of tiny homes that were set up. It was really cute. And that was fun. And that seemed to be all good and well with my body, with traveling with 2 little kids. And then I had my sisters and my niece to help me as far as support goes. So that was wonderful. And It wasn't until we actually went into the literal wilderness that my nervous system was rocked. And we found a camp spot, and we set up next to the lake, which was probably about maybe a few 100 feet away. And my body went, like, all the alarm bells were sounding off, and I did not know what was going on. And I feel like I've become a more anxious person over time, but this was more than just anxiety or angst. This was something that, again, I had never felt in my body before. And I didn't know what was happening because I was looking so forward to this experience and taking my kids out in nature and going camping, maybe a little in over my head with a almost 6 month old and a 2.5 year old. Again, I had loads of support from my sisters, and my niece was also there helping. But again, like, you're in the great outdoors. There is no four walls to keep you quote unquote safe. So with this camping trip, it was just like a radical awakening, like a radical shift of like, oh my gosh, what is happening inside of my body? I cannot explain this. I don't even know what is going on. I was truly miserable on this camping trip, and I don't even know if my sisters know how, like, disrupted I was. And it truly was. It was my nervous system, and I was just overstimulated, overwhelmed. I was in fight or flight response. I mean, my toddler could have walked down to the lake easily. A tent really isn't a solid four walls to keep us, again, confined, safe. And so I think it was just my body trying to protect me and trying to keep me and my boys safe, because I am ultimately, their protector, and they're my responsibility. So once we got back from this camping trip, my body definitely settled down to a point where I could pay attention to it. I had more awareness around, okay, I feel safer at home. That's not the state I'm living in. And it was just this piece of, okay, interesting. This happened with this experience. Tell me more. Like, I was definitely in a curious state with this experience. I'm very curious to see why this happened, what I can do differently, what I can learn from it. I was very curious in how to move forward. And it wasn't only a few days later, after my family had left, and I was sitting on the front porch again, wearing the baby in the baby carrier, and my 2-year-old was playing outside, and I call them God nods. I don't know about you, but it was a God nod of to Google nervous system reset. And again, I didn't know it was my nervous system at the time. I didn't know what this feeling was. And so I did, and I came across a 21-day nervous system reset that was starting, I believe it was in August. So it wasn't too far away. And I was like, oh my, and there's paid ads, and there's all the things, right? So it's like, call it what you will, but I feel like it was just divine timing. And I was like, okay, interesting. So I signed up for this, what was called a 21-day nervous system reset. And I did the 5-day free program that they offered. And then, of course, there was the 21 days after that. And it was around breath work. And I just actually had a special guest episode on last Saturday. She is a certified practitioner with the RBM breathwork, which is the rebirth breathwork mastery type of breathwork. And this is the breathwork that I did through this program. And I felt within the first week, I felt some huge shifts in my life, shifts that I couldn't explain, shifts that I didn't understand, but I was like, this is working, whatever this is. So I inquired, and I signed up for the 21-day reset. And these shifts, again, I didn't expect them. There were shifts that occurred that I didn't even realize needed to shift in my body, about perspectives or things that had happened to me in the past, or things that I was releasing in ways, again, that I didn't realize. Truly, I was forever changed after this 21-day nervous system reset. So I started digging after this. I kept going more and more and down the rabbit hole. And I have read lots of books and done lots of research and lots of podcasts and lots of digging. And it's kind of like that awareness, you can't change what you don't notice. And once you drive that car off the lot, you see it everywhere kind of thing. Like you can't unsee what you've seen. And for me, it was the nervous system and how it is so parallel to not just our motherhood journey, but our parenting journey and with our spouses and that co-create, that cohabitation, that co-creation within a home of how you're regulated. I mean, your energy, it can feel off. You can sense, you might not like or care for somebody with bad energy. Your nervous system, that grounded feeling is what our kids rely on to make it through their childhood. And so again, just seeing all the parallels and then seeing scripture. I've been pulling scripture for the last almost 8 months. It's just, there's so much there and it's so interconnected and with the breath and it's beautiful how I've continued to follow the breadcrumbs through this journey and the God nods and the God downloads, even though it's been relatively hard. Like it's not the season that we had that I shared in the beginning of this episode, but it is next level hard as far as I am learning to expand and contrast my nervous system. I'm learning to expand and contrast how I parent. I am learning how to expand and contrast that muscle of courage. And again, I'm so honored you're here. I'm so honored you're listening. I'm so honored that you want to show up better in your motherhood journey, knowing inside you that something is just not right. Like, what is this thing? Because really you can't, like, it's not really discoverable. Because again, we live in such a chronically dysregulated world where we want to Band-Aid approach our way through life. We want to, and again, this isn't medical advice or this isn't any kind of recommendation, but like we want the quick fix, whether that is the happy hour or the anxiety medicine or, whatever it might be, our binging on social media or binge shopping, it's to numb out our full body experience with whatever our vice is. We all have them and it's part of our human experience, but also to learn how to honor our human experience. And again, that's why I'm here today. I'm here to help you navigate these moments and seasons of motherhood that put you in these nervous system stress responses, this fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. We're going to talk a lot more about this as we dive into this podcast and continuing with episodes. And just to honor yourself, honor your body, honor your experience. It truly is about fully embodying your motherhood journey. And I want to walk alongside you. So I would love to hear your story. I would love to connect with you. I would love to hear, maybe a challenging moment or season in your life that you have endured in your motherhood journey. I am so excited to be walking hand in hand with you again, because this kindred journey of motherhood is something you shouldn't walk alone in. And I'm honored to be the one to do that right along beside you. So if you'd love to join my community on Heartbeat, it's called the Rebalance Mama. And I also have weekly love notes that I send out on my mailing list. So if you would like to join that as well, I will include the show notes for both of those in the bottom of the show notes. And again, I wanted to share the season of despair that I was in. And on my weekly love note, I'm going to actually attach a few of those photos of the season of my life that I captured. And I do look back on often, and I do remember this time quite vividly in my mind. So if you are interested in seeing and hearing a little bit more about this journey of mine, please subscribe to my weekly love notes. And again, that is in the show notes description. So I am so honored you're here. Thank you so much. I hope you have a blessed week, and God bless. Hey Mama, thank you for joining me today. If this episode resonated with you, would you take a few seconds and share it with a fellow mom friend who is also navigating this journey of motherhood? Also, if you could spare a moment of your precious time and leave a 5-star review for the show, it lights me up to know that this podcast is helping you mother with ease. Time to go rest and ground down in all that we covered here today. I'll meet you back here next week for another episode with love and gratitude.